Thank you so much for being with us today as we are dedicating today's entire program to the high cost of home insurance in Oklahoma. There is a big spotlight on this issue right now with the state House and state Senate both holding interim studies and the state attorney general recently writing a scathing letter to Insurance Commissioner Glenn Mulready saying he has grave concern that the state of Oklahoma is not adequately protecting its consumers. In the letter, AG Drummond, who is, by the way, running for governor, said that home insurance rates have increased 51% since 2019, while the rest of the country has averaged an increase of 10%. Drummond pointed to a recent report from LendingTree showing Oklahomans paying an average of 2.5% of their home's value on annual premiums, 4 times the national average, and spending nearly 7% of their annual income on housing insurance. Drummond telling State Insurance Commissioner Mulready, quote, "There is no justification for the unreasonably high insurance rates here in Oklahoma." So it seems like a perfect time to talk to the insurance commissioner about this. Glenn Mulready, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate the time. We know that you've been talking about this issue a lot. No justification. That's what the letter said. Was the AG correct in that?
No, I don't believe he is. You know, we have filings from all the insurance companies. So, they're doing annual financial statements certified by, third-party auditors. And so they do filings in each of the states. And so we know exactly what the claims are. We know exactly what their expenses are. And so I guess I would just sum it up by saying the math is there. You know, actuaries are paid a lot of money to forecast. And they get paid a lot of money because it's difficult to do, right? To estimate that. Anybody can look backwards and see if those rates were set. Were they adequate? Were they too much? Is there an unreasonable profit? That type of thing. And when you look back in Oklahoma over the last 5 years, for sure, a little less so before that, but last 5 years, the loss ratios, which is basically the premiums that come in and the expenses and claims that get paid out, the homeowners companies here are underwater when it comes to premiums in and claims going out.
Right. I was watching your interim study where you spoke at both the House and the Senate. And really you're saying at its core, the argument is this, that the rates are up right now because these insurance companies, you say, they're paying out more than they're bringing in in premiums. And so they're not profitable in the past 5 years. And really, that's it, is what you're saying. And it's weather. It's hail damage.
The rates are
it's wind-driven damage, that sort of thing.
Yeah, rates are driven by claims. I mean, that math equation is premiums in, claims paid out. Claims are driven a very high percentage by weather, and we get more than our fair share with our severe convective storms.
We do.
With wind and hail. Last year we had 152 tornadoes in Oklahoma. We had 2 EF4s, the first time we've had that since 2011 in the same year. So we get our share of weather, which causes claims, which is what's driving these rates.
I've heard criticism saying, but neighboring states, they have a lot of weather and their rates aren't as high as Oklahoma. So what's the justification there? Why does that not line up?
Well, I think that's just a generalization that isn't proper to say that they get the same weather we do. Where does the weather land, right? It's about damage that's done and claims that come out of that. I think the other factor that gets left out a lot is inflation has had a really big impact. When you're talking about home values and replacement costs, repairing those costs, that has gone up substantially over the last handful of years as well. So inflation is driving that. And I think too, your home is not insured for what it was 5 years ago. That is creeping up because of that inflation factor.
Interesting. And you speak about inflation. I guess that's one of the reasons why this is such a big issue, because people are looking at their bills and they're saying, well, not only is everything else in my life going up, but now my home insurance is going up potentially by hundreds of dollars every single month. And they're looking not just for somebody to blame, but they also want a solution on what can happen. And I know that there's been talk about what the state can do in Oklahoma. Your job is to follow the statute and the law.
Right.
And there are laws in Oklahoma which in some cases really limit you and your office on what you can do when it comes to these rates, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the law specifically says there is no excessive rate in a competitive market.
In a competitive market, which I know is another one of those things that you get some pushback on. I saw Andy Fugate, the state representative. He pointed out statistics showing that 4 companies have 60% of the business here in Oklahoma, saying, well, how is that competitive? Even though, as you point out, there's 40 to 50 companies.
Well, there's more than 100 that are licensed. We've got
but
40
that are
to 50
actually
that actively writing.
Yeah, they're actually writing.
And the numbers that he uses now, that's not the way we determine a competitive market. That's not the way the Department of Justice does. That's not the way the Federal Trade Commission does. We use the same model that the DOJ and the FTC are using, the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index. And so it's a way of taking market share, the square root of market share.
Right, it's a lot of
some
math,
of that,
right?
and yeah, and so that's what we're utilizing. But I also might add, those numbers that are cited, you'll find that in pretty much every state as well. Oklahoma's not an outlier. It's not an outlier in the increasing the rates, and it's not an outlier in market share results there too.
When I was watching this interim study, there was a bit of despair that I felt, because you're saying in some ways, listen, this is how it is. These insurance companies are charging so much because they are not profitable. There's only so much we can do. And so I'm like, what, do we throw our hands up? What do we do? I know you talked about you would like to see more basically strengthening our homes. You said, and I believe, in fact, I wrote it down here. You said that Oklahomans should consider a cultural shift in how we think about our roofs.
That's a broad statement, wasn't it?
Well, I thought it was interesting. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I guess what I was relating was I know in our home, each year we have an annual inspection and cleaning and repair of our HVAC systems. That's just something we do routinely. I think a lot of people do that. Nobody does that with a roof. And so I just think the inspection of the roof and maintaining of the roof and how we are, and when we're replacing that roof, to be replacing it with a fortified roof, this program that we've launched in March, the legislature passed, governor signed, we have now fortified 56, we've issued up to $10,000 grants to 56 homes that are completed. Those folks are seeing discounts over $700 on their homeowners policy. So that is something you can do when you're replacing your roof, whether you get the grant or not.
Right.
It's a few $1,000s more, but it is well worth that. You'll have that ROI in a matter of a few years.
And that's the Strengthen Oklahoma Homes program,
yeah.
I believe.
And we're on the leading edge of that, I might just say, as far as looking for solutions. We copied Alabama 100%, but we're right behind them. And so people, there's probably 40 states now looking at similar programs.
Does that math out, though? I mean, for somebody watching right now that doesn't have the money to go in and fortify their roof and put a new roof in or pay the inspectors, would that save more money than they spend on that program, for example? Yeah,
over a matter of years, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. ROI, maybe over a 4 or 5 year period, you're going to make that money back, yes. And I also might add that this issue of homeowners and escalating rates is an issue across the country. It's not an Oklahoma issue. When we get together with other insurance commissioners at our meetings, this is what we're talking about. What do we do about it? So the talk is about, we can't touch the weather. We need to talk about mitigation and resilience.
Is it worse in Oklahoma? I know you say it's everywhere, but do you agree that Oklahoma has the highest rates? And
no, they don't have the highest rates.
Okay.
And now, some reporters have stated that.
Because I see that. I've seen that in multiple reports. That's why I'm saying it.
Yes, because they're repeating what someone else has said. But we do have the highest. We're in the top 5 always. You look at, we'll be 3 or 4.
Right.
And I think too, well, we'll let that go.
Well, okay. I got one more question for you. And I guess it's the big question. We have a couple lawmakers here, a couple state senators who are involved in these interim studies. I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to ask them about, law changes, statutes, changing things like that. But, I mean, if we're following the laws, if it's a competitive system, as you say, and the rates are still going sky high for so many people, and the math is not mathing, then is the system broken? Do we need to change certain laws in this state just to help out the Oklahomans who have to pay this?
Yeah, I don't believe the system is broken. I do think that it has become a lot more of an issue. I mean, when it comes to a real estate transaction, the insurance piece used to be it just was a non-factor. It is now a factor. You've got the mortgage amount, the insurance, the interest rate, but the insurance amount has become much more of a factor. We are pushing forward this year too a package of legislative changes to try to help, which is why we did the Strengthen Oklahoma's program last year. We'll have a package of some sort of consumer protection changes that we think will be helpful as well.
Well, you set me up for my next segment very well. Thanks so much, Insurance Commissioner Glenn Mulready. Nice having you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time.